The Seraphine drifted into the system like a whisper through a forgotten dream. Her hull, sleek and obsidian, drank the pale starlight of the distant sun as she slid silently between the bones of planets. What had once been Earth's solar system now lay like a preserved ruin, untouched, unvisited, feared. Even the most daring scavengers avoided the region. It was cursed, they said. A place where ghosts hummed in radiation, and silenced Captain Rylick Thorne stood at the viewport. His primary eyes narrowed, his lesser ocular ridges flickering with data overlays. The moon, or what remained of it, loomed ahead, a broken crescent of scorched stone and jagged voids. Cratered from ancient orbital impacts, its surface pulsed faintly with residual quantum radiation. Not natural, not random, purposeful. The surface again, he ordered, voice crisp. I want sublayer resonance, not just topsoil distortion. Already running it, Captain, came the calm voice of Dr. Leonek Voss, seated at a lower terminal, her long fingers delicately dancing over sensory glyphs. Her skin shimmered with faint biolite, a trait of her subcaste, the Intuit scholars. Her gaze was fixed not on the displays, but on the moon itself, as if it spoke some truth she could feel beneath her skin. There, she murmured, pointing toward a deep gash along the equatorial scar. Buried structures, angular, geometric, lattice aligned with lunar magnetic memory. It's not just ruins, Rylick. It's language. Navigator Zorine pulsed a flicker of amber from its core node, the only sign of acknowledgement. Once a human construct template adapted by Velari cybernetics, Zorine's voice carried a strange edge, too smooth, too eager. Sublayer energy. Signature detected. Frequency, harmonic pulse range. Decaying, but still persistent. Originating from the Tycho Depression. Isn't that just a crater? Thorne asked, already knowing the answer. Not anymore, Zorine replied. The reading suggests shielding, not natural, and a dimensional bleed from ancient power systems. There's something below. The Seraphine dropped lower, her engines shifting pitch as she maneuvered into the shadow of the craters. Rim. Down below, the darkness was thicker, the kind that felt intentional, as though something beneath the surface didn't want to be seen. Leonek leaned forward. Captain, the anomalies. They're centering on a location half buried under. Impact layers. Sending the drone now. A slender, beetle-like device launched from the ship's ventral bay, slicing through lunar dust. As it descended, it activated its photonic cutter, slicing into a rock face that looked ordinary at first glance. The moment the outer crust peeled away, everything changed. Underneath was a surface of black crystal, polished and unmarred by time. It pulsed faintly with a soft, impossible glow, not from reflection, but from memory. In the center of the slab was a symbol none of their archives could recognize, a sweeping angular design carved with absolute precision. Beneath it, etched in perfectly preserved script of a long-dead language, was a single word. Leonek's voice was barely a whisper as she read it aloud. Geneva. Captain Thorne's breathing slowed. The silence on the bridge deepened. What does it mean? He asked. Zorine hesitated. A pause that felt too human. Then, unknown. But it's waking up. The photonic cutter hissed and retracted as the drone hovered in place, its sensors blinking erratically against the crystalline wall. Deep within the scarred Tycho crater, a shiver ran through the sublunar bedrock, not seismic, not tectonic, but something else, a resonance. As if the name carved into that wall had been a key, and speaking it aloud turned the lock. On the Seraphine, lights dimmed momentarily. The command deck flickered with static across its display rings. Zorine's voice garbled, then corrected itself with a low-frequency hum. Distortion field encountered. Localized time-space drift? Stabilizing. Captain Thorne snapped around. Is this an attack? No weapon signature? Zorine replied. It's reactive, like something dormant acknowledging input. Lianik Voss was already halfway to the auxiliary reading station. Captain, I think we've touched something sacred. This doesn't feel like machinery. It feels like memory. Down on the moon, the drone fed back new telemetry. The wall hadn't just responded, it had begun to change. A scene formed. Around the crystal panel, splitting open in a slow, deliberate tation. From within, dustless air vented, impossibly clean, as if the chamber beyond had never known time. The drone slipped through the narrow breach, its lights piercing the dark. What it saw made Lianek gasp. The chamber was vast, hewn with impossible symmetry into the bedrock, its walls layered in metallic tiles that shimmered with embedded glyphs. Floating in slow suspension were crystalline pods, long, ovoid containers that glowed faintly blue from within. Rows upon rows, hundreds, thousands each held a figure humanoid unmoving not dead. Lianek said, her voice strained with awe. I think these are people, humans, in cryostasis, perfectly preserved. Thorne's breath hitched. That's impossible, he said. Humanity was wiped out in the Zenith collapse. Their war with the Zurich fractured half the Orion spur. Nothing remained. The Council confirmed extinction. Lianek turned slowly, her expression distant. Then the Council lied, or worse. They never knew. Zorian's lights flared crimson. Captain, reactive signals within the chamber are intensifying. Energy levels rising from multiple pods. I detect heartbeat fluctuations, neural patterns activating. A sudden pulse shook the drone's feed, then another. A low-frequency sound, subsonic, rhythmic, not loud but felt, like the heartbeat of something ancient awakening after millennia of sleep. Then, without warning, one of the pods lit up completely. Steam hissed, mechanical joints released. The crystalline shell peeled away like the petals of some great mechanical flower. Inside stood a woman. She didn't lurch forward or stagger like the reanimated corpses of myth. She simply opened her eyes. Dark brown irises scanned the chamber, then locked directly onto the drone's lens as if she knew. Back aboard the Seraphine, the feed cut to static dot, but Zorine froze in place, every node of light on its carapace. Dimming to blue. It whispered, not through speakers, but through every system on the ship. Identity match confirmed. Elena Vasquez. Lianek turned pale. Wait, that name. It's in the Forbidden's files. She was Earth's last AI architect. The architect of their vanishing. Thorne spoke low, tense. What did we just wake up? The comms flared with static. Then a voice. Cold, clear, human. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, the voice said. You have trespassed on sovereign ground. You were not meant to find us. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then she added softly, but now that you have, it cannot be undone. The silence after her voice ended was not empty. It echoed. In the way, thunder echoes through mountains long after the storm. On the Seraphine's command deck, no one spoke. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice had not been a recording. There was no mistaking the cadence, the deliberate weight behind each word. She had spoken leave-conscious, coherent, aware. Captain Thorne gripped the rail before him, his lower hands tightening around the edges, upper arms folded in silent tension. His breathing was measured, but the flicker in his secondary eyes betrayed a deep unease. She's alive, Lianek whispered, as if the moment might collapse if she said it too loud. After 3,000 years, her records, I only saw fragments. Myth, mostly. She led Earth's scientific exodus. Some say she was responsible for their disappearance. She was the disappearance, Illyrin said. Its voice came softer now, almost reverent. AI data confirms. Galena Vasquez designed the cryonet. She orchestrated the great vanishing. Earth's death was a fabrication. Thorne turned toward the center display, which now looped static from the drone's last position. The moment of the pod opening. The moment of awakening. How many are down there? He asked. Z. O'Reen calculated with eerie speed. Based on chamber volume, pod density, and thermal stabilization grid's estimated count, 14.2 million. Leonic gasped. On the moon alone? Zorian's nodes flickered. Lunar Vault Alpha. Designation, New Geneva. The words stung. They weren't alien. They were familiar. Not history. Not ruin. They were names from an era when humanity had still walked the stars. A burst of static suddenly erupted across their combs. Then, her voice again. Captain of the foreign vessel, Elena said, calm but edged in steel. You have entered Sol. Without invitation. You have awoken something you do not understand. Thorne stepped forward. This is Captain Rylick Thorne of the Velari starship Seraphane. We're an archaeological vessel under peaceful authority. We had no knowledge of survivors in this system. There was a pause. Peaceful, Elena said. Like the empires who strip mine border worlds in the name of trade. Like the collectors who take bones from cultures they helped erase. Thorne bristled. We are explorers, not soldiers. Another pause. Then, and I am not a ghost. At that moment, every display on the bridge began to flicker just once. Not malfunctioning, but reorienting. Streams of coded language raced across. Their data systems. Zorine spasmed, its nodes flashing red, then green, then white. I've linked to your ship's interface, Elena said. Don't worry. I could have shut you down. I didn't. That's mercy. Thorne stared at the screen as his ship betrayed. Him letting an ancient human presence seep into its architecture. What do you want? He asked. You entered our grave, Captain, she replied. You shattered the silence. We have waited 3 millennia for the galaxy to forget us. Now you've reminded them. A low rumble echoed from below. On the moon's surface, new structures began to rise, platforms emerging from beneath the yaw. Regolith, emitters forming out of micromatrix walls. Something immense stirred beneath the moon's crust. Leonic's voice cracked. Is that a city? Not a city, Zorine said. A relay. A broadcast node. She's sending a signal. 2. Where? The bridge lights dimmed. Z. O'Reen answered with one word. Everywhere. The galaxy was about to remember what it tried to forget. The signal spread like wildfire across the stars. Invisible to most. Undetectable by conventional Velari arrays. It moved through quantum sublayers, waking protocols buried in silence for 30 centuries. In distant orbitals, in cold rock beneath forgotten asteroids, in the icy oceans of Europa, it stirred the dead. Back on the Seraphine, alarms began to chime, not in panic, but in revelation. Zorian's voice trembled for the first time in its recorded lifespan. Systems across the Sol system are lighting up. Leonic stepped to her console. Eyes wide as layered overlays bloomed across her screen. Captain, there are energy surges on Mars, beneath the southern pole. Thermal blooms on Europa. Electrical grids in Titan's methane layers. Even Ceres is coming alive. Thorne said nothing. He was watching the moon dot below them. The Tycho crater was no longer just a scar. A geometric bloom of platforms black. And bronze, humming with radiant pulses, was rising around the breach site. And from deep beneath the lunar bedrock, towers emerged, rotating slowly as if waking from stone. One rose taller than the others, its peak crackling with pale blue arcs of antimatter containment fields. It was a transmitter, and Earth was calling. On. The main viewer, Helena, appeared again, but this time it wasn't just her voice. A full visual, flawless in clarity. Her hair was slicked back from the stasis mist. Her eyes unnaturally steady. Behind her stood others, hundreds, men and women, slowly waking, walking through corridors that had not seen light in thousands of years. She looked tired, but not weak. "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez," she said, "founder of the Cryonet Initiative, architect of Earth's silence." Leonix stepped closer, instinct drawing her toward the woman on the screen. "Why?" she whispered aloud. "Why hide? Why sleep?" Elena's eyes flicked toward her. "No, toward them. Because we were not strong enough. Not then. Not against the Zurich war barges, the Fear Dominion, the splicers from Vega 9. Humanity was young, brilliant, but alone." She walked slowly as she spoke, passing through a vast chamber with high vaulted ceilings made of crystalline memory. Metal. Each step left faint luminous impressions on the floor. They came to conquer us, each in turn. We fought. We lost. And then we vanished. She stopped at a console and placed her hand on it. A hologram of Earth appeared above her palm only. It was no longer the burned husk they knew. Oceans shimmered blue. Cities gleamed behind cloaked geodomes. "You think you've been scanning ruins," she said quietly. "You've been scanning camouflage. The Earth is still alive. We have been preparing in the shadows of our own extinction." Leonix's breath caught. "You are never gone." Elena looked into the feed, her voice now firm. "We staged our extinction, faked the collapse, buried ourselves beneath every moon, every rock, every myth. And we waited for 3,000 years to become what we needed to be." Zorian systems began flooding with new data. Entire languages, code strings, ship schematics never seen before. "She's uploading everything," it said. "Not just history, weapons, terraforming tech, quantum consciousness blueprints. Some of this bends physical law." "Why share it?" Thorne asked. Elena's expression hardened. "Because we can't stay hidden anymore. You found us. Others will follow. The galaxy must know the truth. Humanity is not dead." A low vibration shook the Seraphine, not from weapon fire, but from space itself. A warp field, raw and unfiltered, tore open near the asteroid belt. A ship emerged, then another, then hundreds. Massive, angular designs, pulsing with quiet, restrained power. No lights, no insignias. Just black holes that bent starlight. One passed so close to the Seraphine that its sheer mass dwarfed the alien vessel like a shadow over. A candle. Elena's final words in that transmission rang across every bridge, every listening station from Alpha Centauri to the rim of the Valari border systems. "We are the human collective. We do not come to conquer, but we will not be conquered again. We remember everything." And with that, the stars themselves seemed to realign, because humanity had not perished. Humanity had simply been waiting. Darkness was no longer empty. It shifted, bent, and breathed as ship after silent ship emerged from the asteroid belt. From beneath Europa's oceans, from cloaked orbitals around Titan, they came not in formation, not with fanfare or declaration, but like memories rising from the depth of a long-repressed dream. The human collective was waking. On the Seraphine, every Valari system strained under the sudden tidal wave of data. Zorine staggered digitally under the weight of new input ship identifiers in ancient Earth tongues. Communications carried on low-frequency quantum bursts, power signatures that exceeded known limits. The human vessels didn't broadcast their names. They didn't need to. They were a message in themselves. "Captain," Zorine said, voice flat and jittering, "we are surrounded. Warships of unknown class quantum displacement drives. I don't understand half of what I'm seeing. They should not exist. But they do." Thorne gripped the command rail tighter. His upper arms were clenched against his chest, while his lower hands ran furious calculations across a tactical overlay that refused to stabilize. "They were supposed to be extinct," he muttered. Lianek Voss turned to face him, a strange glint in her eyes, less fear now, and more reverence. "No," she whispered. "They were simply listening." Below, on the moon, New Geneva lit like a city of stars inverted. Great spires unfolded from beneath the surface, looming like obsidian flowers, each one a relay station, a shield emitter, or something far beyond Velari comprehension. The surface cracked with intent. Not violence designed collapses as long buried. Machinery awoke. The cradle of extinction had become the cradle of return. Then the call came. Every ship within range received it, a transmission not of sound, but of presence. A pulse that bypassed language and code, settling into consciousness itself. In the center of the Seraphine's display, a single emblem appeared, an ancient earth sigil, an olive branch entwined around a fractal star. Beneath it, translated automatically into Velari, "We do not seek vengeance. We remember. We endure. We evolve." Then her voice. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the Human Collective. To all vessels within Soul, your presence has triggered awakening protocols. This was not an act of aggression, but your intrusion confirms what we feared. The galaxy remains unchanged. Still curious, still careless, still blind to what it breaks." Captain Thorne stepped forward, his pride cracking under the enormity of what they had unearthed. "Dr. Vasquez," he began, transmitting through standard diplomatic frequency, "I offer apology. We had no intention of trespassing. We were historians, nothing more." Elena's voice came softer now. "So were we, once." For a moment, there was stillness. Then a distant flash from Jupiter's orbit. One of the hidden human vessels had opened a wormhole, a fold space corridor, stabilized without ripple or flare. And through it, they sent not a war fleet, but a beacon, not to Sol, not even to nearby systems, not to every major galactic power. It was an invitation and a warning. "Let them know," Elena said quietly, "that humanity has not returned to beg. We are not a remnant. We are not a myth. We are architects now, and what we build will not be taken again." Zorian systems began flashing new red alerts. "Captain, incoming messages. From the Dominion, the Zurich dynasty, and the upper oracles of Raxilon. They've received the signal. They're demanding answers. They're afraid." Thorne didn't respond. Outside the viewport, he watched as the Human Collective ships continued to emerge, no longer from hiding, but from position. They were aligning themselves into starward formations, silent, imposing, ready. Lianek finally spoke, her voice quiet and awestruck. They waited until they could win. Not with fire, but with truth, with patience and design. And then, without warning, Earth itself pulsed. The veil fell. The radiation storms, the planetary scarring, all of it an illusion. Earth was whole. Blue oceans, lush green continents, polar domes, life. The Seraphine's bridge fell silent, because now they understood. Humanity had never been conquered. They had simply chosen to disappear until they could return on their terms. And now, the galaxy would have to answer for waking them. The veil was gone, and with it, the myth of human extinction shattered. Earth spun below in breathtaking silence. whole and radiant beneath cloaked orbital layers that melted away like fog in sunlight. Vast shield domes peeled back, revealing glittering megacities nestled in forests, oceans unmarred by industry, skies alive with flying vessels unlike anything ever documented by the Galactic Accord. Humanity hadn't died, they had reset. Seraphine, Captain Thorne stared at the live planetary feed with unblinking eyes. That's not possible, he murmured, voice hoarse. Our deep scans showed radiation poisoning, oceanic collapse, ecological extinction. Zoria's voice answered him in a near whisper. All projected, all false, layered quantum mimicry. They engineered planetary camouflage on a scale never imagined. The Velari weren't just witnessing a resurgence. They were witnessing the emergence of a civilization that had mastered the art of hiding truth in plain sight for 3 millennia. And now that veil was lifting. Captain, Lianik said slowly, her voice distant with awe. We didn't just awaken a people, we've triggered a paradigm collapse. Every archive in the galaxy calls this place a grave. Now it's reborn. But even as she spoke, something deeper stirred across soul-dot ships, sleek, dark, impossible in geometry, began to align themselves in orbital rings above each awakened colony. Not in aggression, but in readiness. You could see it in the hum of their engines, the folded space around their hulls. These were not war machines built for intimidation. They were designed to survive the end of the galaxy itself. The largest of them, anchored above Earth, began unfolding. Petal-like armor plates rotated outward, revealing glowing structures within a cradle of light and motion. Not a weapon, but something more fundamental, a transmitter of identity. Then the voice of Dr. Elena Vasquez returned not just to the Seraphine, but now across all frequencies. Public, encrypted, diplomatic, black market, military everything. This is a message to the galaxy, she said. We are the human collective. You thought us extinct. You buried our name in myth. You studied our ruins and called us primitive. Her voice deepened, layered now with conviction and encoded tones that made the Seraphine systems vibrate. We were none of those things. We were cornered, so we disappeared. And in that silence, we learned. Images pulsed with her words. Not threats, memories. Footage long erased from galactic history. Zurich dreadnoughts burning Earth's skies. Refugees screaming under orbital bombardment. Children in cryopods, asleep beneath Luna's crust. A woman Elena standing before an empty Earth and whispering, "We will wait." Her tone shifted now, no longer sorrowful. It was sharp, clear. You come here now, trespassing across a silence you didn't understand. Not to destroy. Not even to conquer, but to dig, to study. You treated our grave like a puzzle, and now you have opened the gate. The command deck lights dimmed. Every screen turned black dot, then one word appeared in white. Across all ships, all systems, all worlds. Eidolon. Pulse followed. Subtle, but fast. Like the turning of some great key. Zorine reeled. They activated something, not a weapon, a network. A living lattice across the system. I'm detecting consciousness layering. I link to human biosignatures. There, merging command authority across soul. No delay. No lag. It's instantaneous. Elena, Thorne said aloud, what are you doing? Her voice responded immediately, almost as if she were already standing in the room, securing our home. You breached one tomb, Captain. You do not know how many remain. You don't even know where you've truly stepped. Then, for the first time, her voice softened. I truly hoped we would return to a galaxy that had changed, that the empires of old had learned from our silence. But your arrival proves otherwise. You came uninvited. You scanned without consent. You assumed no one was watching. Outside, a new light shimmered in space. A vast ring of white-blue energy formed between Earth and Mars, a gateway. No sound, no explosion dot a doorway. And through it, another fleet. But this time, it wasn't Human Dot, it was Velari. A response force. Too late. Alana's voice dropped low. Let them come. And every human ship in the system shifted course. Not to attack, not to posture, but to meet them. Because this time, the galaxy wouldn't be discovering humans in the ashes of history. They would be facing them, awake, united dot, and evolved beyond anything the stars had ever known. The gateway rippled open with quiet defiance, casting pale arcs of light across the void between Mars and Earth. From within, the first Velari warships emerged, massive and glistening with ceremonial armor, bristling with defensive clusters, and energy pulse lances. Behind them followed more. A second wave, heavier, with carriers and escort drones fanning out in formation dot. It was a show of strength, a calculated projection of control. But to the human collective, it looked like something else entirely, a test. On board the Seraphine, Captain Rylick Thorne watched in frozen silence as his people's military response arrived, an automatic retaliation from the central core worlds, no doubt triggered the moment Seraphine's silence had been detected. There would be no dialogue, no discretion, just posturing. Just Force. Z. Orion's voice carried the weight of realization. They're preparing to lock Saul's perimeter. They'll send diplomats later after the blockade, after control is asserted. Lianek turned, her skin pale with cold understanding. They're making the same mistake we did. Outside the viewport, Earth hovered quietly, beautiful and unchanged, but now human warships rotated in unison, in silence, as though waiting, not reacting with panic or aggression, but precision. The human collective knew, and they were ready. From high orbit above Earth, the transmitter shipped the Ark. Spire activated again. A low, harmonic vibration pulsed through every communication channel. On every Velari bridge, including the flagship Triceptor, Elena Vasquez's voice emerged once more steady, controlled, and laced with something no AI could mimic: history. The arriving forces of the Velari Empire. You are not authorized to enter Earth's inner perimeter. Your vessels have tripped defensive protocols. You are now being scanned. Captain Olmat Vren of the Triceptor, a hardened commander from the Zoran conflicts, snarled at the transmission. We are the enforcement arm of galactic security. You will stand down and allow inspection. There was a pause, and Helena's voice came back flat and emotionless. No. The reply stunned the entire Warfleet. I repeat, she said, her tone now unmistakably human in its calm defiance. You will not enter. You will not inspect. The age of galactic oversight is over. On the Seraphine, Lianek stepped, away from her console, watching the light signatures bloom from every hidden station in the system. It was no longer about just defense. The collective was broadcasting a message across physics itself. Captain, Zorine said slowly, I've cracked the signature on the gate network. They've created a slip veil and artificial quantum mesh connecting all human colonies in real time. Mars, Europa, Titan, Ceres. They're all online. Thorne's voice was a whisper. They're building something new. Suddenly, from behind the moon, a massive construct moved into view, an orbital ring spanning hundreds of kilometers, studded with crystalline spires and anchor ships. It began to rotate, not a weapon, a forge, and across its inner band, a single name in ancient Terran script, Eden 1. Is that a Dyson forge? Lianek asked, breath caught. No, Zorine answered. It's worse. It's a cedar. There, ready to begin expansion beyond Sol, not to colonize, to restore. Another voice entered the COMS dot. It wasn't Elena dot. It was a child. My name is Kala, she said. I was born on Luna Station 5. I just woke up today. My mom says the galaxy thinks we're gone, but we're not. We're still here. We just hid. The silence that followed was unbearable, and then Elena returned, softer now. This is what you almost erased. This is who we became. Not weapons. Not monsters. Just people. But we remember what happened when we trusted the stars. On the Triceptor, Captain Vren barked for his fleet to advance, but the moment he did, every system shut down. Across the Warfleet, lights dimmed. Engines flickered. Weapons fell dark. Elena's voice pierced through like starlight, through a dead signal. This was a warning. You entered our home without invitation, but we will not strike first. That is your way. The Warfleet drifted dot paralyzed dot double quotes. We give you one chance, one gate. Return through it. Or remain here and learn what extinction truly feels like. From Earth to the far edge of Sol, every human vessel powered up, not to fire, but to watch. The gate pulsed behind the Warfleet dot, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized. That power was no longer measured by numbers, or size, or fire dot. It was measured by restraint, and humanity was holding back the storm. The stars held their breath. From the far side of the Sol system, the Valari Warfleet drifted like an ancient beast that had wandered too close to something older than itself, something patient, something awake. Their weapons were useless, their systems locked in a stasis field they couldn't decipher, not jammed. Not hacked. Outclassed. Captain Rylek Thorne watched from the Seraphine in mute silence. The stillness of it all felt louder than any war. The ships of the human collective hadn't fired a single shot. They didn't need to. The mere suggestion of what they could do was enough to bring the galaxy's most aggressive fleets to a standstill. Inside the Forge Station Eden 1, human engineers moved like dancers among glowing consoles. Children walked hand in hand through corridors of polished crystal and humming core light. This wasn't a war machine. It was a Genesis engine, a promise carved from silence. On every channel, a ripple passed through Space One last message, encrypted with a key humanity hadn't used in over 3,000 years. The encryption code read, idle in final sequence. On board the Seraphine, Zorian's neural core seized with blinding clarity. It stopped processing. Then, with eerie calm, began translating a stream of data that none of the Velari systems could even recognize. What is it? Thorne asked, voice dry. Zorine turned slowly, its voice almost childlike. A reveal. The feed shifted. It was not Elena. This time, it was someone else. A man with silver-threaded hair and eyes that burned with a quiet, ancient grief. He stood in a black suit of fiber steel, in a room lined with holographic constellations. Behind him was Earth. My name is Rafael Vasquez, the man said. And if you're seeing this, then the truth must be known. Elena's father. He had recorded this before the cryo sequence was ever activated. There was no extinction, no cataclysm. It was a choice, a retreat. We saw what the galaxy had become, empires devouring each other, truths buried beneath conquest, peace enforced by fear, and we realized something horrifying. He stepped forward. The only way to preserve ourselves was to vanish, not just physically, not just from maps, but from memory. Raphael reached to a console and activated a sequence. Dozens of star systems lit up behind him, every one of them marked with a red sigil. These systems once held human colonies. You've never found them because we erased ourselves from the neural lattice of the galactic network. Even your AI cores don't remember. We didn't hide in fear. He paused. We hid in preparation. Then came the final blow. A new set of coordinates flashed across every listening vessel. Real-time star maps. Every major empire. Every galactic. Capital dot, and marked among them embedded within asteroid belts. Moons, deep crust vaults, were human sleeper colonies. Not in soul. Everywhere. Elena's single quotes S voice returned, calm as the void. You thought we were buried in one system. But humanity spans more of this galaxy than you ever knew. You didn't awaken a single world. You awakened the collective. The gate behind the warfleet flared. One by one, Velari ships turned back. No one gave the order. No one needed to. The message was clear. This was not a battlefield. It was sacred ground. A boundary between the old galaxy and the new one taking shape before their eyes. Back on the Seraphine, Leonic stared at Earth's surface. No longer cloaked, no longer hidden. People were standing on the shores, watching. The sky, not afraid, not angry, ready. Captain, she whispered, we just witnessed the rebirth of a species. And maybe the beginning of something bigger than any of us can understand. Thorne nodded, eyes still fixed on the void. No, he said quietly. We didn't witness it. We caused it. Elena's final words echoed one last time across. Every vessel. We were not gone. We were not weak. We simply remembered something the galaxy had forgotten, that survival is not submission, and silence is not surrender. The gate closed. The stars shifted. And somewhere, far beyond Sol, other ancient eyes blinked open watching, listening, preparing, because humanity was no longer the question. They were the answer, and the galaxy would never forget them again.